Found a bunker deep in the woods. Supplies stacked high, it feels so good. Hiding out neath the leafy hood. Gonna help others try to get through.
Welcome back to another fantastic episode of I'm Going to Talk, You're Going to Listen. I'm your host, Chance Paladin, and my co-host, Ringo the Amazing Cat. And I haven't done one of these in a while. I've been doing the top 10 ones, and so this is kind of a break from your regularly scheduled top 10s. I think I had, so this is kind of like a house cleaning episode, so if the 4 or 5 of you that listen to my shows don't care about this, then I get it. To everybody else, it's just going to be noise, and they're going to leave their comment and pause the video 1 second and turn the video off and kill the algorithm for me. So but for the 4 of you, I don't know, I estimate between maybe 4 and 6 people to listen to the whole thing. Thank you. That's definitely more than 0 or 1, which is what it used to be. So yes, every great adventure starts somewhere, but with this top 10 thing, like I think I had thought of 2 or 3, and kind of my thought was very similar to like Bunker Basics, is like I would try to choose topics that I knew enough about to not be kind of like act like all big and bad, but like to at least be challenged enough. Like I've noticed, I was talking to somebody, a close friend, as close of a friend as I have, I guess, kind of talking about how I do better when information is kind of like dragged out of me than me just kind of like free flowing information. Although you might listen to me ramble and think that this comes easy, but this is actually like the more challenging of the 2 ways. This way takes longer because it takes me longer for enough of my ideas to coalesce into something. Whereas if there's 10 questions, then I can just have the AI kind of coalesce all the information together, where it's like it's more bundled up for me. And I have mentioned that many, many, many times, how I notice the AI probably about 80% of the time is bundling the information exactly how I would bundle it up myself, which is, honestly, I don't even know what that means. But it's just an observation. So it's making the episodes really, 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 really easy for me. But obviously all it's doing is asking the questions, and I'm doing my best to answer it. And that just works better for me. What I noticed the AI can't do is it doesn't do a very good job at bridging the gaps. And I think you'll notice that with the next 2 or 3 I have coming out, it doesn't put, drones and radios and like crypto and satellites and, taxes and stuff. It doesn't, it understands each of those things in their own silo, but it doesn't understand itself immediately trying to put all that together. It keeps it very compartmentalized. And talking about just, laws, who's going to be breaking the law and what you're going to be, sooner or later, I've made the comment before, sooner or later we're all going to be breaking the law on everything. And I can't remember what I was thinking about. Oh no, I know what it is. I get in this a lot. People talk about what's legal and what's illegal, and just how screwed up and I guess unfree we all are. This is one of the metaphors I use. When you can go to the open air drug market, and I'm not saying do this, but buy at least what you believe to be fentanyl and what they portray to be fentanyl legally, okay? But you can only buy a handful of Sudafed a month because the methods ruined it for everybody. That's how backwards of a society we have become. For some reason, one drug is okay and a different drug is not okay, but you could take Sudafed and make it into XYZ. And again, I used to work at drugstores, and yes, people used to do that. At Costco, you used to be able to buy a Sudafed by the case. And again, if they find out someday that Sudafed gives you superpowers, I would not at all be surprised with how much my mom gave us Sudafed. If it gave you superpowers, I'd be like, yeah, clearly, that's what did it. At least for me, I don't know if my brother took as much Sudafed as I did, was given as much. Anyway, the point of all it is like the cat's out of the bag with Sudafed, and right now it feels like I've been punched in the sinuses, and I would love to go get a Sudafed, but I don't have any because it's a controlled for some damn reason, some law that was just never appealed or repealed or whatever, banana peeled. And Ringo, okay. He was looking at his reflection. He goes, my reflection's looking pretty awesome. But you can go to an open air drug market and get fentanyl for nothing. Like, oh no, it's gone up from 5 cents to 10 cents, or whatever it is now. I don't know. But I can't go get more than a handful of Sudafed a month for some reason. And so that's just like how everything is going to be illegal at some point. Magazines for rifles and pistols, those were legal for ages. All of a sudden, one day you couldn't buy them anymore, and then someday they're just going to be illegal. Sissy face. It's the same thing with like modern rifles. Modern rifles were legal for a long time, and then one day they're just going to be illegal, and someday they might be legal again. They just keep waving these wands back and forth. You can buy crypto, and you can't buy crypto, and but your bank can block crypto, but you can buy crypto a different way, and then your bank blocks it again. Banks have tried like with the credit cards, like blocking firearm purchases, and they do, and they don't, and they do, and they don't. And side loading apps on your phones, and someday de-googling a phone is going to be illegal, or this is like sooner or later owning a Bible is going to, like, it's all, everybody just has to get like scrub. Sorry, my chair is loud. I can see the sound. I can see the noise spiking. Like the whole concept of like legality just may as well not exist. People say, well, if you don't have anything to hide, but they can just throw something in your house or throw something in your car, and all of a sudden it's like guilty till proven innocent. They catch them on body cams doing that stuff. And look, I don't care, as long as everybody should just be able to. I don't know. Like I don't get it. I don't know why. I don't know why somebody hasn't looked at Sudafed laws, for example. and just be like, hey, why don't we let everybody have 2 boxes of Sudafed instead of 1 box of Sudafed? Imodium is the same way. People were abusing Imodium, which is anti-diarrheal, and all of a sudden, at least in the US, you can't go to the grocery store and get a full bottle of Imodium anymore. You can get 1 blister pack, which is enough for like 1 person to have, 1 tummy problem. It's insane. And this isn't like a, hey, go look at that hard drive, go look at that guy's hard drive kind of a thing. This is just like MP3s were illegal, and now nobody even thinks about MP3s anymore. People used to share movies on DVDs before movies were even on, or people used to share movies on CDs in like MP4 format before you could even stream movies. And then DVDs, then they tried to do Blu-rays and HD DVDs and streaming, and now you can still buy movies on DVD. People are still, making their own music CDs for their CD players. And I'm sure everybody thinks we're just like, ancient artifacts for, burning MP3s onto a CD. But it's like, at least I own this, and I can just sit there, and if the CD gets broken or busted or stolen or ruined or something, I can just go burn a new one and listen to my music again over and over and over. I'm sure someday AI music they're gonna try to make AI music illegal, and it's already probably all thumbprinted, and they're gonna, go full on protectionism, just like they've done with drones. They're gonna try to make Chinese drones illegal, but the anti-gravity A1 is like one of the most dog shit drones I've ever seen. The reviews of it are just abysmal, and I don't know if that's a US made drone or where that drone is, but like manufactured. But so many drone manufacturers, like I can't remember. I think this is in an episode you guys haven't talked about, or you guys haven't seen yet, but it's just like an addendum about how GoPro's drone used to go, thermal. And they still didn't ban drones. They don't go ban a whole thing and make a whole thing illegal, or add, extra safety features to make it safer. They do it for protectionism. They didn't ban 30 round PMags because they weren't safe. They banned 30 round PMags because they wanted to take them away from everybody, and they wanted to crack down. Same thing with 80% lowers and quote unquote ghost guns, and it's the same thing when they're going to come ban 3D printers, and they just keep using this boogeyman over and over again of like, just follow the law, just register it, and then you register it, and then they come and take it away, and then they just register it, but it doesn't cost anything, like they're doing with silencers and SBRs. But you still can't own an SBR. Well, you can't buy a new SBR in the state. But I asked Grok 3 times in a row if you could buy a brand new SBR in Washington, 3 times in a row, and it said yes. And I asked it the 4th time, and it said no. And like, people in the same, speaking just of SBRs, it's going to be the same thing that happened with pistol braces, which to people who don't really know what they're looking at just looks like a buttstock. There's just a subtle difference that most people aren't even going to recognize. They're just a lay person looking at it. Very, very, very slightly different. And the ATF has gone back and forth so many times on pistol braces versus butt stocks, and then that goes to the whole SBR thing, short-barreled rifles, carbines, and pistol caliber carbines and stuff. And whether you registered or not, or whether it caused a tax stamp or not, or whether there's a holding period or there's not, over and 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 over. And if it's an assault weapon, if it's got 2 or more features of this and that and this and that, that there's none of that in the Second Amendment. And the reason why is because once it says shall not be infringed, the second you start infringing on any of it, the whole thing just F's up. It's the same. That way with the Second Amendment. It's that way with knives. Like, oh, people can't have balisongs, butterfly knives. Oh, people can't have switchblades. And all of a sudden it's like, well, what if the knife assist is this way instead of this way? And you're like, oh, here we go again. Or it's like, you can have the edge on this side, but you can't have the edge on this side, or it could be 2.4 inches, but not 2.5 inches. And they wanted to have it like different, county by county. And it's just like, you guys, stop. Just stop. Like, the war on drugs, just stop. Like, you can abuse practically every single, sorry, chair squeaky. I'll make sure to gate the volume down. People are going to abuse drugs, and they're going to abuse chemicals, and they're going to abuse oxygen. People are going to abuse every single thing that you can abuse if they want to abuse something. They can try to, deter it a little bit like they do with inhalants. But like, good Lord. It's just, if people have addictive behaviors or abusive behaviors, why do you punish the entire effing community over it? And one of them, someone brought this up again the other day. Like, how did they teach all of the algorithms on everybody's phones to know what an appropriate or inappropriate image is? So, like, how does a phone know to flag a dick pic? Right? And they were talking about this on Twitter, of course. And it's like, I think they were talking about iPhones. They're like, how many dick pics did they train on the iPhone thing to get it to be able to flag that stuff? And even before that, I remember people were talking about, I think it was like Facebook. They were like, how did Facebook and how does Apple, I think it was like the iCloud or something. It's like, they started adding their own meta tags, which means they had started just creating like their own albums and their own algorithms using everybody's image training data to where they knew if it was a gal in a bathing suit, it knew to tell gal in a bathing suit. And it's like, how does it know that? Because it's been training on everybody's information. Nobody ever stopped and said that that should be illegal or that that's inappropriate. And it doesn't matter like how much of everybody's privacy gets invaded. And you might think, well, why does that matter? Why does that matter? But if you don't have anything to hide, because it takes them nothing to pass a law saying that they can just kick your door down and check to make sure your guns are locked up at any given time, which they have proposed several times, or that they can just check your phone whenever they want, or check your computer whenever they want, or listen to everything. Like I was talking about encrypted radios. It's like, why can't we talk? Why can't we have encryption if nobody else is on the channel, and we're not using a channel that the local repeater uses? which I understand would be disruptive, and so people shouldn't do that as long as they're not on commercial bands that, the the loggers are trying to use or something to coordinate their logging. Like, if you're being a responsible, you know, person, why can't you use encryption? And, the other part of that is, again, some of my quote unquote mutuals on Twitter have talked about, like, LOL, buy a Baofeng and piss off the sad hams, LOL. I just get so sick of that. It's like, how about just advocating not being a bag of dicks? How about that? How about advocate everybody just trying to chill out, and realize that, like, again, I could have like 2 or 3 neighbors shooting their guns. I don't care. Like, there's no bullets hitting my house. Like, this is America, you know? Don't shoot at power lines. Like, I saw all these videos of people shooting at power lines. I'm like, well, don't shoot at power lines, dummies. Like, but you don't ban guns just because people could shoot power lines. You make the laws strong enough so when somebody does that, because of course they're going to video it, or someone's going to video it, because, like, look at those dummies shooting the power lines. Talking about New Year's stuff, if you're listening to this later, like, there's already laws against that. So you don't ban guns because of that, or you don't ban drones because someone could fly close to an airport. You don't ban drones over that. Like, a lot of people have been saying, like, rugged individualism. Like, America is rugged individualism. That's what separates us apart from everybody else, the rest of the world. And, like, whatever happened to that? Like, how did people get so, like, weak and pathetic that they weren't able to actually, like, think for themselves? And, like, because here's the problem, like, people joke about teasing the sad hams, and, the sad hams talk about how they're gonna triangulate everybody down, and it's just like, they should all just be on the same team, or just agree to just leave each other alone. Like, they post that shit for internet clout and to get some likes, and, to get more money off their blue checks. But it's not funny, and it doesn't help anybody, and it kind of sets us back further, when really what they should be saying is, leave the sad hams alone. Don't, why troll their repeater? They paid for that repeater. Why would you just go troll the repeater? That's not in the spirit of what we do. Like, the spirit of what we do is to just be left alone. Let the sad hams go be sad hams on the repeater with nobody on it. And if you ping the repeater on accident, which I've done many times, just apologize. That way, if there's ever an emergency, we can all try to put our BS aside. I mean, that's the way with prepper groups in general. That was, I think, a lot of people's big problem with prepper groups to begin with, is they nitpick each other to death so bad that by the time it comes to do anything, everyone's feelings are so hurt that nobody can just suck it up and be like, yo, I talked a ton of shit about you online, but hey, you showed up and I respect that. But, they'll tell you that to your face, but they don't go tell everybody else, hey, he's a pretty squared away guy. And what a lot of people, especially here on the I-5, corridor, we all know each other from like way back because we've all been in the same AO doing the same shit since 2000 and I don't even know, somewhere between 2000, 2010, 2012, I don't know. 2008 is when, no, 2012 is when like the shit just really started getting bad, and that's when everybody started kind of conglomerating. But the problem is like nothing anybody ever did was good enough for anybody else. And I'm finding it really hard to kind of trust everybody again. Because since 2012, 13 years ago, fuck, I can't believe it's 2026. 13 years ago, and nobody's learned their lesson. All these prepper groups or patriot groups or whatever you want to call them, none of them have learned their lesson. They're all still like very like infantile. If they get any traction at all, they fall apart under their own arrogance. Instead of just like, how about just like talk shit through? And if you go outside, you go outside. And if you don't go outside, you don't go outside. Just try to work on something and just try to help each other like scoot a little bit forward. Like, not everybody has to go running up a mountain. Like, should you be able to run up a mountain? Yeah, but I think it takes like a lot of trust. And it's not even like just going outside into the cold, wet rain anymore. Like, I think a lot of people are. I think this is going to be a really stressful year. I think there's going to be a lot of pressures on people this year. And I think what a lot of people are going to want to talk about isn't like, can you run up and down a hill, which is important, but it's like, how am I going to put food on the table? Where am I going to live? Like, it's going to be like very much a 2008 and a 2016 conversation, and not so much like a 2012, you know, sort of a 2012, 2016, 2020 conversation. It's going to be talking about financial collapse, not society surviving financially, not surviving civil unrest fully. And side note, that's why properly storing food is always like and water and stuff is always the number one thing, and then number two, you know, besides bandages, is, you know, how are you going to defend your food, and power, you know, electricity. And people just they can't get over like the stupidest shit. And the hardest thing for me to get over is how do you start vetting all the way back to the beginning? Meaning, like, it's probably time to meet people again. And it's probably time to start working with more people. And it's probably time to start training more people. And it's probably time to get everybody together. And I know I'm not the only person thinking this. I know I'm not the only person thinking this, but it's hard. And it's like, what are the risks versus the rewards? And it's like, the risks are just too great to even fathom. Like when you have so much to lose and absolutely nothing to gain. Everybody else has nothing to lose and everything to gain. Usually, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. Like getting together anymore. I guess to circle it back around when everything's illegal. You know, they tried to make training with 4 people illegal. So it's just illegal to train, bound in Overwatch. Like it would be illegal to practice convoys. Like how do you reconcile getting called racist constantly and then getting told that everything is illegal? And then you've got this barrier of fear. How do you get everybody cumulatively over the barrier of fear? And what happens is you turn into a culture of, instead of me trying to reach out and see who wants to get together, to everybody reaching out to me and saying, when are we going to get together? And it's a whole deal. It's a crazy amount of risk. And I guess I think a lot of people have been talking about like what a bug out weekend 2026 looks like. And I've also seen what, people trying to do, food drives and stuff is like. And it's like, there's a really good chance that 2026 is like all the civil unrest stuff and the financial stuff like all put together, where like the two worlds merge together. And there's going to be opportunities to make a lot of money, but you have to be taking a lot of risk. But there's going to be a lot of people without, and navigating that's going to be crazy. Like, you don't know how many people in your town or your city or your subdivision are all on like social security, disability, some Medicare, Medicaid, somewhere in there. Like, and only we're heading into another budget crunch. Everybody's insurance premiums for Obamacare are about to just double. Actually, more than double, because the Affordable Care Act was never affordable in its second year, and they didn't do anything about it. And we're not subsidizing it. So these government subsidies, as we go further and further, 38 trillion, soon to be 39 trillion in debt. 28 or 38? I feel like it's 38. 39. I usually go check it, but I'm not going to right now. As we get further and further into debt, Medicare and Medicaid, the affordable, Obamacare, all that is Social Security, disability. It's all going to have to wind down. It's going to have to. And the SNAP, food stamps, insanely corrupt on the state level, with the states just like milking federal dry on subsidizing illegals for food, and not to mention like the hospitals hemorrhaging money by illegals with fake identities that have no way of paying. And then you've got the Somali daycares, and you've got H-1B taking over. Things are just going to be crazy. And people have just this goldfish attention span where in the span of a week, you can go from everyone being anti-Vivek because H-1Bs are taking over and ready to send all the H-1Bs back, to Somali daycares and everyone wanting to send the Somalis back, to being at war with Venezuela all of a sudden, like in the span of a week. You can cross that entire threshold in a week. But people are sitting here going, "Oh, am I going to pay my taxes this year?" There's a lot of people that are like, "What if we just, go exempt and just stop paying taxes, and then that'll free up some money to pay for, the water bill or the electric bill or something." Because they're going broke from the pay in force. They're going broke from 30% interest rate credit cards, and home mortgages are not going down. The medium banks are going to be going under, where the large banks are going to be scooping everything up. And you might think that, like, oh, this means that people are seeing through the veil, right? I don't think people are seeing through the veil. I think people are putting up a new veil. They are rejecting reality and replacing reality with something new. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. Maybe that's a super unhealthy thing. Maybe it's okay. I don't know. People are like beginning to fully immerse themselves in their psychoses, and then they pop back out for a second and go, "Oh, shit, am I supposed to pay my taxes? Oh wait, I thought he said we were getting an extra 1,000 to 2,000 taxes back. I thought he said we were getting a kicker check." Or she's, I guess if you're living in Oregon, I thought she said we were getting, a kicker check back for all of the, overages and taxes that we paid. Then you realize, like what happened to me. One of my doctors completely randomly misattributed a care thingy that was supposed to, I don't know really what to call it, a program. They misattributed one of my visits to just a completely different program for some reason. Someone just completely dropped the ball. I think I might have alluded to this, but I don't know if I told you guys what had ended up happening necessarily. But I thought we'd had our bill paid off. Instead, they tacked on an extra $1,000 on a little glitch. They clicked one button instead of another button, and my visit went to one program instead of a different program. All of a sudden, I owed $1,000. A full, not exaggerating, $1,000 out of nowhere. I don't know who has a spare $1,000 laying around. But if my wife and I didn't follow that stuff like hawks, and if we weren't in constant communication with each other, I was holding the bills side by side, and I had been trying to call them over and over and over and over. She'd been trying to call them over and over and over and over and over. We're trying to log into every portal we could find over and over and over and over. And then I was telling the gal, thank goodness these gals are so, the normal gals, not whoever picks up when everything else fails. But the normal gals, they are so nice. And I'm like, listen, I'm sure everybody says this all the time, but I'm like, this cannot be right. This is mathematically impossible. And to her credit, she found it. It was a miracle. Thank goodness there's still just like some competent people. Going back to the whole like legality thing, like, is it legal for them to do that? Like, I've worked for insurance twice. Like, they can do whatever they want. There's no such thing as legal or illegal. Nothing is illegal to them until you can like prove it in court, and good luck. That's never going to happen. They're going to bankrupt you and then settle for nothing. And so, especially back when there was pre-existing conditions, and then everybody says, "Well, Obamacare fixed pre-existing conditions." It's like nobody liked pre-existing conditions. That's a stupid thing that should have just been fixed. They shouldn't take Obamacare compromising on how insurance works. Anyway, so they beep boop redid the thing, and I haven't heard back. I haven't got a new statement yet, but I'm sure that just yeeted $1,000 into the nether somewhere. Is it illegal? No, it's just a billing. It's a billing glitch. But that's the thing with taxes. If you go look up what happened to Rich Wyatt of American Guns, they decided that they didn't like him and ended up getting him on incorrectly paying his taxes. And he had to go to jail for quite a long time over not paying his taxes. But then, okay, so all right, so not paying your taxes right can get you put in jail for a long time. And people will say he did other things, but all of those other charges went away, and all he had to do was plead to just not paying his taxes. If you go look it up, which is insanity. But you go look at what happened with these Somali daycares. Billions of dollars just disappeared. Billions of dollars disappeared. They do not know where the money went. FBI, Cash says he's been looking at this for years, and it got buried, blah, 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 and they've known about it, and this and that, and now all of a sudden everybody's like, holy shit, there's these Somali daycares everywhere, and nobody's at any of them, and that's allegedly. And it's a big mess, right? Where are the SWAT teams, black bagging all of them, right? They're coming with the kitty gloves and their little clipboard, and where's the door kicking? Where is what would happen to the rest of us if we did that, is I guess what I'm saying. Why is there two sets of laws? Why are the rest of us living in fear over trying to follow every single letter in law and every single teeny tiny thing, and pay this form and do that form and pay this tax and pay that tax, pay this fee and pay that fee? And I get into this in the crypto episode that's coming up. If I paid everything that I supposedly owe on crypto, it would be like thousands of dollars, which makes no sense because I've lost money on crypto. Like, there's no reason it should say that I owe tons of money on crypto. Not even according to how the actual laws work and stuff. But that doesn't stop, Coinbase from pulling this shit out of its ass with its whatever that is, 1099, whatever the tax form is. Like, those tax forms just, the government has no idea how much you owe in taxes. They have no idea. If they knew, they wouldn't make you have to try to tell them how much you make, and then you try to give them something and everyone just try to agree and handshake on it. If they really knew, they would just be able to take the flat exact tax that they need, and then you wouldn't have to pay them over, and then them being able to keep interest on it all along.
and then them give you some of it back after they've been collecting interest on it for a year, and they don't even have to pay you it back. All they have to do is eventually pay it back, like with interest starting from, was it April 1st or whatever it is? Like, taxes are insane, and if you run a small business, taxes are even more insane. And that's what they want to put people to jail for. Like, meanwhile, the Somalis are running around stealing billions of dollars allegedly. And I can't have more than a handful of Sudafed, even though it feels like I've been punched in the sinuses. Like, and they want to give everyone that fake phenylephrine that doesn't do anything. And I'm not saying everyone needs to go out and put on their purge masks. I'm just saying that this year is going to be the year where I think everybody rejects reality and just replaces it with however it is that they're just deciding to cope with everything. And I think it's already started for a long time, talking about people driving around with massively expired tabs. That was the thing in Portland for ever since the Rona. I think they said like tabs were racist or something, and so you didn't have to have tabs in Portland. And they walk around and everyone's tabs were like 5 years expired because tabs are so stinking expensive. And people talking about votes don't matter. We voted to have like $4 tabs, which is, I think, just, the price of a new tab sticker plus chip, plus an envelope. Several times, I think, but they said that we didn't know what we were voting for, and so we don't get our $4 tabs. Instead, I think tabs are like $60 or $80 or something. Insanely impossible, insane price. I don't know what it is. It's just massive. And then if you move states, they want to make you like repurchase your damn tabs. It's crazy, crazy shit like this. And you've got someone like illegally parked in front of a meter, for weeks or months. But you got to go pay your meter bill. And kind of like Law and Order, in terms of all these like fees and fines, has just turned into like virtue signaling, I think. And I'm not saying your car should be leaking oil down a storm drain. In fact, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just kind of pointing out like the hypocrisy of the universe now. This year is going to be like, you're going to be noticing changes this year. These changes have been in process for a really long time. But I think this is going to be the year where everything has kind of a different veneer, a different edge, as people start rejecting reality. And there's going to be a lot more LARPing, a lot more role-playing, even more than there has been. As people slowly assume their personas again, like they did in 2012, 2016, and 2020. Every 4 years, people assume their personas, and this one's been pushed back a few times. 2024 was a little wonky. 2025 was a little wonky, and everyone keeps saying, like, when's going to be the next one? Well, it keeps getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And I don't think it's going to wait till 2028. The midterms are coming up, and I don't think we're going to get big tax breaks. And I think that's what's going to do it. I think people are going to realize that there aren't big financial reliefs coming. And they're just going to say, why are we paying for music? Why are we paying for movies? Why are we paying for sports ball? Why are we paying for tabs? Why are we paying our taxes? You know, there's craters in the road. They're not potholes. Pieces of road are gone. Everybody is starting to notice this. In every city, they are starting to notice, like, giant chunks of road are gone. And the road's not being repaired anymore. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not that tabs aren't being enforced anymore. It's that everybody is just giving up, like, on doing things like that. Like, if your kid is hungry and you're looking at tabs, I mean, come on. Like, and it's the same thing with the new phones. People are looking at a new phone, and if they don't need a new phone, they're not going to get a new phone anymore. You know, it's like you're going to see video cards going down, you're going to see phones going down, you're going to see shoes going down, because everybody's going to be consolidating, and people's lives are going to be fundamentally changing this year as they decide where their priorities are. And I think their priorities, less and less and less, are going to be paying all the little fees and fines and nickels and dimes. They're going to be figuring out where their priorities are. And to a lot of parents, maybe that just means homeschooling their kids. Two, like pulling their kids out of school, pulling their kids out of sports. You're just going to see things are going to change this year. This is going to be the year where you start to notice change, where people's attitudes start to shift. You're probably going to see groups forming again, like they always do. For 2 years now, I thought it was going to happen, and it didn't happen. It's because everybody feels relatively okay, but like, not for long. Not when we start seeing food shortages because people don't have food in their pantries anymore, and half the country is like this fake middle class that's broke out of their mind, and then the other half of the middle class who has a paid off house or no interest house, and the jobs keep going away and going away. Any day now, any day is going to buckle, and they're going to say that all the job numbers have been fake. And my YouTube feed is full of realtors gaslighting everybody into talking about how Portland is making this comeback. But you go look at Portland news, and it is multiple stabbings and shootings every night again. And if you work in the cities, you listen, you're going to start hearing those conversations change. And people at work that used to say, like, oh, we can't bring XYZ into work to defend ourselves. You're going to be seeing and hearing people talking about how they're starting to bring stuff in to defend themselves. That switch is going to change. If you're a prepper and you don't talk about prepping, but people know, and they're going to start asking you about prepping. And this is going to be a really interesting year. It's not going to be without struggles, even if you have a job, because people sense diminishing resources, and one of the first things they do is they start trying to ambitiously carve out bigger and bigger chunks at work, chunks that they didn't necessarily work for, but that they think that they're entitled to. And you're going to see people at work, those of you who are employed, start trying to carve out bigger and bigger chunks of the pie, thinking that's what's going to keep them safe at work. Because they know, even if they don't want to admit it, they can feel it. They can feel it deep in their bones that there is a shift. And they know they haven't worked for it, but they feel entitled to it. And they think they can, cross the finish line at the 11th hour and bamboozle everybody to lock in their piece of pie. But you're going to see it all from every angle, and you got to just keep a cool head. And again, I'm not telling anybody to break the law. And I'm not, I hate that I have to caveat this every time this topic pops up. I just feel like I have to, what I'm saying is see it, because you need to be prepared for it. Because the other side, there's no restraint. The second SNAP benefits were under threat, you saw how many videos of them were like, no, we're just going to go take out the grocery stores, and anyone that gets in our way is going to get sent back to the spawn point. You saw how fast they went from 0 to 60 on that. They don't have any restraint. They could be ambushing your kids at school because they hate them, because they hate you. And half the schools don't even have to tell you that it's happening still, which is just horrible. So if you have kids, you need to check on your kids and make sure that they're having an okay time at school. So, if things get really, really bad at the schools, you stay in contact with your kids in case you got to pull your kids out, because the schools weren't good for kids 10 years ago. And a lot of it was coming from the teachers, not even the other students. I wish I could go back in time and talk to my friend and ask him what happened. His daughter was having problems at school, and I think it was with the teacher. And they didn't want to tell him about it. He had to go to the school, and they had to get his daughter moved, I think, to a different class because the teacher was just being a psycho. And I think I don't talk about that stuff enough, but you need to make sure your kids are safe at school, because the schools were bad 30 years ago, and they were bad 20 years ago, and they're bad 10 years ago, and they're bad now. And you need to be having those conversations with your kids and making sure your kids are okay. And make sure they're not enduring physical, mental violence at work, and and the schools keeping it shushed up to make their metrics look good. And don't let your phone, speaking about shit that's illegal, they're trying to make it so kids can't have phones at school. They're trying to make that illegal too. You guys don't don't get disarmed. Don't let your kids get their phones taken away. You're completely cut off from your kid the second they take the phone away. And that's what schools want. They want to take kids from their parents. Period. Everything they do, every single thing they do leads directly to that. Period. Do not let the schools take your kids' phones. Insane to me. It is insane to me, after all the things schools have done. And that's just the cherry on top. That's insane to me. So again, for the billionth time, I'm not advocating to do the no stuff. I'm saying, like, you need to take a really big, long look at reality and start to prioritize what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. Get back to the rugged individualism that got us here to begin with, which meant doing things that made sense and not doing things that don't make sense. I can't tell you, as I've said in the past, I can't tell you what that is. Every one of you is going to have to figure that out for yourself. But what I can tell you is like, this is going to be the year. This is going to be the year. So look at your bank accounts and figure out what you can, cancel. I wish I could remember was it Visions? I can't remember if I was on Vision's stream or whose stream it was. This was maybe like a year ago. And Vision's like, everybody cancel your Netflix accounts or something like that. It was so funny and random. And then there's a bunch of people in the chat that canceled their Netflix or something. He's like, I just saved you guys a bunch of money. It was funny. I think that was like Visions, but it's like, you guys watch your bank accounts like hawks. Don't click on bad links. Don't get baited by, false senses of urgency. I kept getting text messages from my doctor all of a sudden to redo a prescription. It ended up being legit, but I still don't believe it. It ended up being legit, but I can't believe they would. I was talking to my wife how it's like, did the pharmacy make this look like a scam, or do the scammers make it look like they're calling or texting from the pharmacy? Because why does the pharmacy look like it's a scam? Why do scams look like they're coming from the pharmacy? It's like, it was kind of a funny moment in a weird way. Anyway, so I don't even think this is necessarily what I wanted to talk about. I think I just wanted to say, like, please help me get to 25 reviews on Bunker Basics. I'm going to do a spring 26 edition, and then I think that's going to be it for Bunker Basics. And if I get to 25 reviews, I'm going to do Bunker Buddies, the follow-up. But if you guys aren't showing enough interest in it, if I can't get 25 reviews, I'm not going to do a follow-up. AI has made being an author almost, I can't think of the right word, inconsequential. I don't know. I can't think of the right word. It's like making music. It's like, well, I liked making music and I liked writing books, but if everyone wants AI slop and they want, same thing with AI, like YouTube. If you think AI videos are just so awesome and you just want AI videos, then we'll just go away. And if you'd rather have AI books, just go away. And if you want AI music, well, I like making AI music. It's fun. But if your lot in life is to just point out that something's AI and that's all you have, like, I've met so many people at work too. That's AI. It's like, my dude, AI has been out for like 3 years mainstream, or longer than that. Like, your response is, that's AI? I've met so many people like that. It's like, okay, it's AI. What do you actually think about it besides just stating the obvious? Like saying the sky is blue. Okay, well, what do you think about how the sky looks today? It's blue. Okay. Are you out of oxygen? Did you run out of oxygen and your brain can't do anything? But I guess I'm just as much to blame when I see AI slop. But I can articulate what I mean when I see AI slop. AI is so linear and topical that it cannot get into the nuts and bolts of putting pieces together. We're still a ways away from it being able to do that. And so if you appreciate Bunker Basics and you haven't left a review yet, just kidding, there's only like probably 2 of you listening by this point. I'm just going to keep asking everybody. I know that I have sold and given away enough books now to where I should have way more than 25 reviews. So I know everyone's going through a lot of their own shit, though. I just wish that you guys would take the time and just, and those of you who have, you have no idea how appreciative I am. And I'm still trying to build up the courage to go to the bookstore and go, hey, look at all these awesome reviews. People like my book. Can you, can you store a few copies? I'll just give you a few copies. I just be like, I don't even care what you do with them. Just please don't throw them away like the last place did. And I tried to bring my books to a game store, and they stole my books. They stole my books, and then said they didn't know me. I've told you guys that story before. Anyway, just take the few minutes and review Bunker Basics if you haven't, okay? It would mean a ton to me. And I'm going to ask everybody again in a YouTube post also. I just want to get to 25 reviews, and then I'll write the follow-up. I have the whole thing outlined. I know exactly what I want to write. I am dying to write it. I just want to make sure that an audience exists. So I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to squeeze this one in. And then the top 10s are going to resume at midnight at their normal time. All right. And thanks for listening. And just keep your heads on a swivel and don't do anything stupid. And don't do crazy things with crazy people at crazy times. And use your best judgment for how you want to conduct your life and protect your family. You be the best you that you can be and make the best decisions that you can be for you and your family. Okay? Whatever that means to you, don't look for other people's permission anymore, because there might not be time. And you might not have, the information may be omitted for you to be making the best judgment call with the totality of information. So just use the best information you have, okay? But pay your utility bills, okay? You should be paying your utility bills. But even that, I know a lot of people who just live in have private electricity companies that are just have $1,000 electricity bills. So you're gonna have to make some decisions too, and I don't know what to do about that. Anyway, y'all take care of each other, okay? Take care of yourselves, take care of your families. Don't let people tell you what's right and wrong anymore. Just when it comes to your family has got to come first. Their safety has to come first. And don't let people tell you how to keep your family safe. Does that make sense? Don't let people tell you what's necessary and unnecessary to keep your family safe. It's like the whole not letting kids have their cell phones. It's insanity. It's absolute insanity. Anyway, I will Talk to you all later. There's still time to prep, folks. Okay? And look forward, there's like 3 or 4 more top 10s. If I haven't got to your topic yet, there's a lot more. I've got like 3 or 4 bangers coming out that I think you're going to really like. It's kind of shitty that I was getting some thumbs downs, but whatever. I try not to let it bug me. It's still frustrating, but I try not to let it bug me. If you have any more topics for top 10s, throw them down in the comments, okay? I will talk to y'all later. Bye.